We graduated both from Binghamton University, and we were studying together in math classes. But then after graduating, you came directly to the city, right?
Yeah, I came to the city for a year.
When was that? Like during COVID?
2020, summer of 2020, I came to the city. Yeah, actually, what initially brought me to the city was like I was going to visit for like a few days, and I went to a few BLM protests with a friend of mine, Maya.
Oh, Maya Berkshire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did you ever actually meet her though?
I haven't met her, no.
Yeah. Anyway,
I just know about her.
I think I probably went down for the weekend and then like came back upstate, and then also shortly thereafter I went back downstate, and then sort of just like stayed indefinitely based at that point. So I was staying with Maya during that summer, and then I think in September I got an apartment of my own in Ridgewood.
A lot of people want to move to New York, right? Because it's like the greatest city in the world for a lot of people. I'm wondering if you had any like specific agendas you wanted in the city. Like, were you trying to look for a specific lifestyle, a specific experience? What were your thoughts when you moved here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't have like a specific agenda initially. Like, I think it was just following the excitement of being here and kind of like, you know, protesting, being out. Like it was very motivating. I mean, I was also like started dating Maya, so that was a big thing. So I was like living with her, and I mean, in the fall I gotten into grad school actually, and so in the fall I was starting.
Right. Did you come to the city just for mainly the protests? Was that the primary reason?
At first I would say yeah, basically. And then I think once I was here and I spent a bit of time here, kind of started to enjoy it. And, you know, initially I was just kind of hanging out with Maya and stuff.
What did you enjoy about it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely at that time we were protesting a lot and just doing other stuff in the city, like kind of just hanging out. I think I do look back very fondly on that period, and like I kind of long for it a little bit, just like my mentality. I really wasn't worried about my future job or anything like that. It was just really hanging out that summer. Like Maya and I, we went to the beach and went on trips. Went to Acadia that summer. It was later on, but yeah, we're just kind of hanging out in the city. I mean, she had been here for a bit, so she had a lot of like friends and stuff like that. And I think, yeah, I mean, I just kind of slowly, I think, got integrated in the city. I think, you know, there's just a lot going on. New York City, like, is the nicest in the summer, I would say, out of all the other seasons.
Yeah.
Like, in the winter can be kind of shit, but like New York City in the summer, I think is like kind of unequaled. Like, I think anyone's gonna have a good time in New York City in the summer.
How was your life like after that period ended, or that chapter?
So, I mean, the next chapter would have been something like in September when I got my new place. We broke up in like October. I was still kind of the same sort of vibe where I was like just like really enjoying New York. I had a bunch of roommates, and like we're all kind of on the same page. Like we'd go out together a bunch and spent a bunch of time together. We went on like hikes, went to Bear Mountain and stuff. So just a lot of fun. I worked at a restaurant for a little bit. I enjoyed that, honestly. I made really good money too.
What did you enjoy about working at a restaurant?
The
I'm
social
about to
yeah.
maybe do something similar.
You should, dude. Why not just throw your hat
Just
in the
like
ring?
being around people. Just like
yeah.
what did you enjoy about it? The
Thing about
social aspect?
Yeah, definitely just the social. Like besides that, like the work was pretty dull and monotonous. It's why I eventually quit, because it was very monotonous, like tedious, but like just the same exact thing over and over again. Like every day we had to like make the like cutlery, basically roll silverware into a napkin, like make these preparations, and I'd do like 200 of them before service. And you know, in the restaurant business, like besides the time when like the restaurant's open and you're like serving customers, the time before and the time after is like it's always like the exact same thing. You know, like the cleanup and the setup, it's like identical every single day. So kind of just got tired of that. But yeah, so definitely the social aspect. Yeah, it's fun. You know, like yeah, you're working, but in a way, it's kind of just like hanging out with people for like a few hours. A lot of perks too to work in the restaurant industry, like namely all of the like nourishment, like extra food that you can get, and drinks. But like, you know, my friends would come in once in a while, and like my manager was like really nice, and she'd be like, oh, like you can just go sit down with your friends for like an hour. And I mean, like sometimes towards the end of my shift, like if some friends came in, I would just like, you know, basically take the rest of the shift off at my manager's like behest, sort of. So
Okay.
So it was nice. Yeah, I would just like sit down and hang out, and yeah, It's not like, I don't think it's particularly like rewarding, at least as like a waiter, but yeah, that's why I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So mainly most of your time was at that job?
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, I probably worked like 30 odd hours a week. Like I think I picked up like 4 shifts or something. But yeah, besides that, I was kind of like still partying. I feel like in New York, had a bunch of friends. My roommates were always doing stuff. And so there's a lot of partying, a lot of hanging out, a lot of like beach trips and this and that. I'm just gonna say, actually, like that year was also pretty tumultuous because like COVID was still raging. So I remember that Christmas I actually spent alone because there was like a big surge of maybe like Omicron or something. So I don't know, there's ups and downs, like, yeah.
I was gonna say, like, you mentioned you don't really like monotonous work. I feel like sometimes there is niceness to that though. Like just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
I actually think if you do the same thing over and over again, you can start to pay attention to how you can become more efficient in small things. And then the perfect example would be like going to the gym where you're just repeating the same workout every fucking day, every fucking week. Every rep needs to be exactly the same. But and it's boring at first, but once you start to learn that rhythm, you can almost put it on autopilot, and then your brain can wander off to think about other things, or you can start to notice the details of every rep, how things should feel, and then you can get really, really good at it, and that gives me, I find, a lot of satisfaction. But it's not very common for me to be able to find something like that where it's just really repetition and you actually like derive a lot of meaning from that repetition. Maybe if I like become a barista or something like I was at Starbucks, I think I would have really enjoyed it if I could like craft a drink really nice, or maybe like draw some latte art or something.
Yeah, I mean, I totally feel that way. And the short amount of time that I've kind of been going to the gym, like every single morning, I've done it for like past four days or so. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. Every single time you get like a little bit stronger and a little bit more like agile sort of, and like able to control like your body a bit more each time.
Yeah.
So I think
exactly.
noticing that is really satisfying.
Mind-muscle connection or something. Anyways, I feel like this is becoming such an interview. I feel like the genuine aspect is kind of like not there anymore. It doesn't feel like as like
authentic,
fun or something.
Yeah,
authentic.
I mean, not every podcast becomes popular.
I mean, were we authentic just now? We were, more or less, I think.
You know, I feel like I'm being very authentic, but I'm
what would it look like to be authentic?
Just being like unbothered, like not worried about being like criticized and judged. I think if you're able to act in a way where you aren't taking that into account so much, sort of like that's kind of what being, authentic is.
One thing I did notice though is just from the way you're talking, you're like rummaging through your memories. And you're like subconsciously thinking, oh, this is something I could potentially talk about. Oh, but also there's this that I could talk about. But what ends up happening is you only talk about something on a very superficial level. You want to like keep talking though. You seem to like actively not want your train of thought to end. Like now that the spotlight is on you, you want to keep it going and just like share from one thing to another.
Yeah.
And then to another, and just want to like share a lot of things, but also simultaneously not really sure what thing to like share in depth about. If I were to be judgmental, you ready?
If you were to be yourself.
Now, if I were to be like judgmental, I feel like you have a little bit of ADHD or something. Like your thoughts are all over the place instead of like having very organized, like very like
sequential,
together,
cohesive. Yeah, no,
which is fair. Like me too, honestly. But it was just one thing I noticed.
It's really helpful, actually.
I don't know if it's a criticism or anything. I mean, I don't even know if there's any benefit of me mentioning that.
No, honestly, I appreciate that feedback because with like all the interviews I'm doing, I think it's definitely like important and advantageous for me. I would do a better job in the interviews if I could kind of stay more focused and like really answer someone's questions. I do kind of often find myself going off on tangents.
If you know really what you want to talk about, then that kind of narrows the scope a little bit. If you have a like consistent way of looking at your time in New York City, you would be able to like express it more consistently throughout your answer to that question.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a good exercise in being able to like, explain your thoughts clearly and quote simply, like getting asked a question like that, where there are so many different ways that you can go, and like there's like a million different things I could say. I think I see it as a problem of level of like detail. Like if there's many levels of detail, bottom level being like I could recount every single thing that happened to me in that entire year. It would take forever. But like, I feel like in my explanation, I was like started at like a very high level, which maybe made more sense. But then I would like go down into explaining in excruciating detail one period.
I think like that too though. Like I tend to like hyper focus on some of the details. Sometimes in my journals, I try to write down every fucking detail. Like, oh, I just ripped the ass at it when I was squatting or something.
But
Or,
that's
oh,
the beauty,
this person's looking at me. I fucking like want to like eviscerate them or something like that. And then it's just so hard, you know? It's so hard to constantly be mindful of every fucking detail and be able to express it.
Yeah.
So that's why...
Maybe you don't have to be though. I mean, that's why I like a medium such as this where like, you know, maybe you can just ramble for... I mean, the whole reason I feel like we're doing this is to like have a space where like we can kind of just get our thoughts out and like ramble. Like if you ramble for an hour, it's all good, you know? Like what's the harm in that? I think it's kind of healthy to have that outlet.
Yeah, but it does make for like a very unstructured and like...
So?
I tend to have this problem like wanting to fix people or convince people or like change them.
I think a lot of people want to do that. I was kind of interested though, not to on a different topic, like
welcome to just switch.
About your experience at Starbucks and like how you feel potentially returning to like the service industry, because I think for me like I'm hesitant or like resistant maybe to going back, just because I think deep down it's because I feel like I would be sort of regressing. Am I in the framing?
Yeah, you are. Just need to move to a little more towards. Don't get fucking close to me, bastard.
But I don't know. I feel like I don't know.
You see it as a low job. Oh, they're like the bottom barrel of society. Fucking baristas, these fucking cockroaches. They don't have no white collar job. Is that what you think about them? Which is, I'm exaggerating, but
obviously,
I don't want to be one of them. I don't want to be one of these fucking blue collar workers.
I mean, I'm trying to think about if they got paid as much as someone did in the corporate world. If you got like $100K to be a barista, would that change my outlook, my opinion of it, my interpretation of it? I don't know. It's hard to say. Obviously, I'm going to say, I obviously don't see people that work in the service industry like that. But at the same time, I feel like the fact that I don't want to work there is evidence of the fact that maybe I do. Honestly, I mean, I have worked in the service. We both worked in the service industry. Again, the reason why I left is because I just got tired of the work, and it felt like, I think there was the monotony aspect of it, but also I felt like I was a servant. There's something primal about someone is literally sitting on their ass at a table, and they're obviously
fucking coffee.
Basically, I mean, it's just like they're like, oh, I want this thing, bring it to me, and it's like, why don't you get up and why don't you get it? Yes, I'm not even cooking the food. I'm literally just transporting it, delivering it to that delivery man.
I'm in a similar place as you when thinking about the blue collar work. I was journaling about it the other day too. My manager, his daughter also works in the services industry. She's like our age, and when I got laid off, he was like, oh, you should try to figure out what you really want. And he's like this older guy who's got nothing against me. I don't think he was part of the feedback that got me laid off or anything, but he was like, oh, you should try to figure out what you want. What do you want to do? Maybe get a job as a server or something. And I was trying to, I guess, portray that I should be more open-minded. And what I think is the right way to look at it is that a job is a job, and you really shouldn't see things as hierarchical, or you shouldn't extensively have your ego involved in decision makings and how you're living your life. And it shouldn't be like ego-centered, it should be like meaning-centered. For example, one could argue that being a barista is pretty meaningful too. Especially when comparing it to like Excel work or something. Like looking at financial statements. You're in the real world. You're helping people. People are interacting with the product, at least, that you're involved with. It's definitely very human for your ego to be involved, to feel like you're like submitting to someone else's fucking desire, like a fucking slave or whatever.
I love that.
But I just don't think that's the right idea to think.
Of course.
And I'm trying to escape that way of thinking. I think I've identified that as the main culprit of my misery, is this way of thinking that's egocentric. I just don't think it's the right way to look at things through the lens of ego. I'm trying to look at things that are more meaningful.
No, that's super valid. I completely agree. How long did you work at Starbucks?
I was there for about 4 months.
And why'd you leave?
5 months. Because I started grad school.
Why did you apply to grad school?
I didn't apply to grad school while working there. I was waiting for my grad school application there too.
So you just wanted to make some money in the meantime?
But I also wanted to I wanted to use it as a way to challenge myself. Because it was very antisocial and really bad at talking to people and stuff. So I imagined myself taking a front desk or cashier role where I always have to talk to people.
Role?
Cashier.
Uh-huh.
Because you're always conversing with customers. And so I thought that was a good opportunity to challenge myself and really let myself out there. And at first, when I was doing the cashier job, I would get flustered. Even some guys asking, can you ring this up or whatever? And then I would
ring these nuts.
And then I would enter it in. You good, man?
No. Have you seen?
Hanging in there.
Not to get sidetracked, but have you seen the clip from Seinfeld? You show Seinfeld when he says you're a cashier. Scene. So he goes on a date with this woman, and then they're in his car after the date, and she's basically like, "I can't see you anymore because I don't respect what you do." And he's a comedian in the show. I think she says that. She's kind of being cagey about it, and he's like, "What's wrong?" Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, "Well, I just really don't respect what you do." And then the line is like, he's like, "You're a cashier." But it does get to the point of what you're talking about, where we do look down on those roles, very much so. And I think, I hate to admit it, but I think part of the reason I don't want to I'm reluctant to get a job as a waiter, say, is because I literally in my head vision seeing someone that I know and being super embarrassed that I'm working as a waiter. Someone from high school or something, and it's like, and they're kind of like, well, what have you been up to? What did you even do in these past years?
I thought you went
ended
to
up as a waiter.
How did you end up?
Forget that. Fortunately, not many people really even know that I was going to grad school.
That's so real, and I think I feel that way. I felt that way too when I was working, because I would see people from my high school and they would see me working. At the time, I felt comfortable because I was going into a grad school program immediately after it, and they didn't understand my situation, so they can judge all they want, but I'm out here in a couple months and I'm going to grad school, and so I feel like that progression or whatever. But it's certainly, I feel the same fear that somebody will run into me there, and God, if I'm 30 and somebody's fucking senior vice president and they're like, "Oh, hey, Caleb, it's been a while. What have you been up to for the past couple of years?" I'm like, "Oh, I've just been working here and there."
And no, everything and nothing. What do people say?
What?
I think people say that. Like,
everything
what are you
and
up to?
nothing.
And it's like,
just life. But that is
nothing.
the truth. You're just living life. Everybody's life is different. This is the core idea that I always come back to when I'm thinking about this type of stuff that involves ego, is that everybody's life is different. And what we can individually do is just to make the best decisions for us.
Just do our best.
In a given moment. Comparison really is meaningless. And for the longest time, I think I knew that comparison was meaningless on paper, but it's different to actually know it and experience it. It's one thing to know what the answer is, what the truth is, and then another to actually live it out.
Internalize it. And I think sometimes I feel that while people are not necessarily impressed by me, they at the very least feel comfortable around me, because I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I sense it from the other person that they're more comfortable with me because I'm not trying hard to impress. And if I'm like, "Oh, I'm unemployed, don't have a girlfriend, have a shitty living situation, blah, blah, blah."
At least I'm not that guy, right?
No,
that's what they think?
No, that's not what I was getting at. Just that I'm very obviously not trying hard to impress, and I think that they feel more comfortable around me for that reason. And I think that's kind of nice. If you are talking to a bartender at a bar, hopefully not a swanky bar, but like a dive bar, I feel like you're probably going to feel pretty comfortable around them, because you can sense that they're not going to be a person that is judgmental or that judges by someone's title, at least. Whereas if you talk to someone around here who's wearing a suit, you're just like definitely not going to be able to feel comfortable around them.
I feel so strongly about people who are like, so I was at a quant finance conference, and one of the interactions, I was talking to this one guy, and I knew he was like, a friend of mine at that conference. He was like, oh, I want to talk to that guy. I'll be right back. And he talked to him, and I was like, maybe this guy that he was talking to is somebody who's interesting, and I want to go and learn about his company, right? And so I walked up kind of awkwardly, and I was like, oh, hey. And I was dressed kind of like a student, and so I could almost like feel his eyes not really looking at me, already not wanting to pay attention to me, looking for an exit, and then that somebody more important to talk to. And then I was like, hey, I'm wondering what you do and what firm you work for. And then that's when he looked at me and he's like, I'm Chief Financial Officer at this company. And he
I'm CEO of
and
Chase.
he looked at me with a look that's like that kind of felt that he didn't think I saw him seriously, so he needed to say those three words
dominance
in that order to like,
CF,
I don't know. I felt a little taken aback. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe he was just like, explaining it. Maybe it's because I'm insecure that I think of him.
I think he's insecure.
I don't know.
If you have to say something, I guess you asked him, but really you have to say that.
It really is possible for me to just like, be insecure. That's the reason why I care about
probably a little bit of both, but it sounds like he's also insecure. I kind of agree if you have to say that. He didn't have to say he was CFO. I think that is kind of egotistical.
Like, I'm one of the founders of this thing.
You could just say
I work in this company, but it just seemed like those three words really mattered. Chief Financial Officer.
The fact that he said Chief Financial Officer too, and not just CFO. Imagine someone saying, oh, I'm Chief Executive Officer of this company. That would be crazy.
Dude, I feel you. But again, going back to the idea that we're running out of time.
I mean, it's 2:55.
You have an interview, right, at 3?
I don't have an interview, but I just want to get back to work at 3.
I guess we can wrap it up soon. But I don't know. The way I see the world probably comes from a standpoint of insecurity. That's why I worry a lot about what other people think. And the way I'm trying to overcome that is by realizing that everybody's life is different.
Everyone's insecure. Everyone's insecure.
Not even that. It wouldn't really matter if everybody else is insecure. I don't really care that everybody else is. I care that I'm insecure. I'm just trying to fix my life. I don't really care about other people's lives. They can do whatever the fuck they want. I'm trying to
it's comforting if you realize other people are insecure as well. Just saying. Also, I think that'll help you understand them and make you. I mean, if you know that everyone else is insecure, that'll probably make you less insecure. You know?
More or less. But at the end of the day, it's really what I do with my life. I don't have to worry about what other people's life. Unless it helps me solve my problems or whatever. So I'm just trying to realize that I
Should I just fart and ruin this podcast?
You're not gonna ruin the podcast by ripping ass.
That was silent but deadly.
Nothing's gonna ruin this podcast.
You're cemented. Because it's already ruined.
You're cemented into history already.
Can't get any worse.
20 years later, you're gonna see this.
When I have eggs, my farts are just out of pocket. They're like fucking like mustard gas.
Oh my god.
Literally though.
Anyways.
It's like chloroform. Let's put a pin in that. I think we got some good stuff. We got some good content.
No, I think the question you asked was pretty good.
On.
I think the question that you asked was...
Which one? Which question exactly?
I just about what you...
How are you?
No, you're kidding. Sharing your thoughts about your working potentially in...
nuts, dude.
In services.
Trying to share these nuts with some people walking by.
I don't know what you're... You really hate being vulnerable. Truly vulnerable, man. Because you don't really like to talk about the things that actually matter to you. It's almost like you prefer to just be superficial.
Well...
but this is for another podcast. Anyways, let's just end on a good note. It's almost
let's end if you don't mind.
It's definitely an issue of potentially working in the services industry.
So this ain't over.
This ain't over. All right.
Maybe you could just record an extended edition.
No, man.
Podcast.
This is the thing. When I was cutting that video, dude, it took so much effort because it was very unstructured. It was a pain in the fucking ass. It was an hour and 22 minutes, and I cut it down to 45 because most of it was silence and it was like unstructured. So if I could somehow have something like John's podcast where I only had to cut 2 frames and just have it continually running, that would be the best.
That makes it easier.
But I do think you, as a podcast candidate, makes for a differently interesting conversation than John's.
Okay.
Like I'm very much
let's
open
cut
to
it on time.
Just talk to everybody.
Jesus Christ, bro.